Did it rain up that way? Any?
It did, but not a whole lot. Like I think we had like 40-50% chance of rain. It was supposed to be like midday showers or something, but I don't think we ever really got a real shower. Like we got drizzle.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it tried to here, but it's funny. The weather here, like specifically in where I'm at, it'll always be like chance of rain, and then it'll literally rain in Columbia, and I'm right on the suburb, and then we'll get like a drop, and then it just won't rain. It'll be cloudy,
No rain yet.
it'll just hover over you like it's about to come, and then because like somebody posted and was like, if it rains, are we gonna postpone it till tomorrow? And somebody else posted and said, rain or shine, these kids getting this candy tonight.
Are they not getting it right?
Right, so they getting this candy tonight, but it held off actually. I felt like a couple of drops, and then it literally just stopped. So, well, I was definitely rejoicing. I woke up this morning. It's funny. I got up. I couldn't sleep for a second. Got up, and something said, check your phone, and I didn't check it. But if I would have checked it, I probably would have slept even better, seeing that trade go through with James Harden, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It went through super late at night because I was up last night. Like I had the game on the whole time, and I don't think I got into bed until almost like 1 o'clock. And there was no notification at 1 o'clock that James Harden was gone. And this morning when I got up, I was plugging the phone in to charge it before I left the house while I was getting ready for work. And I saw a notification, and I was like, what happened overnight? Because I always clear my notifications before I go to bed. And I pulled it down, and I was like, oh, look at God. And then my next thought was, ding dong, the witch is dead. We got rid of James Harden.
It's amazing. I've been talking about it all day, but it's amazing how, especially in basketball, how one player can dictate. But I mean, what they fair to always say in those situations where players are doing that is that the contracts are guaranteed. And once you sign someone to that contract, they know that no matter what, they're going to get that check unless it's, some cause a violation of something, maybe, criminal or something like that. Right. But barring anything outside of any legal issues, they're going to get that money. So when people say, I can't believe he's able to do it, well, it's amazing that more players don't do it. I get it. And I get it, and I think about it from that perspective. Like, okay, I get it. You get one pass, you get one. Okay, you don't like your situation, and sometimes the organizations probably agree with you. Like, yeah, you're right. We need to move on from you. But everybody knows that it's the Harden. It's just everybody gave him a pass with the Brooklyn Nets situation because of all the mischief from Kyrie and the organization, as far as the leadership, just didn't seem like they had any stability on how to control these players. You get these stars in, but you don't know how to somewhat, when I say control, I'm like, keep them happy, but understand and have a culture that has a certain level of respect that these superstars are going to go, you know what, like you're not going to probably see something like that in San Antonio or Miami, certain cultures like that. But with Harden, man, like I had told somebody, that was talking about needing him and everything. And I said this last year, and nobody, it's just like people don't understand. I'm like, basketball is not difficult to sometimes see. Tyrese Maxey is a star. I kept trying to tell people. I was like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the kid's going to have a Hall of Fame career. All I'm saying is the flashes that you see were not flukes. I saw a kid saying to himself, here's James Harden. I'm not going to try to get in the way of that. And Doc don't want me to. So I'm just going to get what I can when I can. And the whole time I kept saying, we're playing too slow. Maxey cannot, he has a certain thing about how he played. There's other players on the team that play better fast. Tobias Harris plays better, fast pace. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these players are not, only time we need to slow it down is when we actually dump it to Embiid. But the way that Harden was playing, I'm like, he's handcuffing all of the other players, in my opinion. So I'm not surprised to see Maxey turn. I mean, this man is averaging 30 in the first 3 games.
I never I didn't need to see him come to Philly to see how he was going to play, because the only reason you bring in somebody like James Harden is because you anticipate him getting you over the hump.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And I just kept saying, I was like, we've seen this movie before. We all know he blows it in the end.
But you know what, Lonice?
I watched him choke enough in Houston to know that he wasn't what we needed in Philly to get us over the hump. What we needed in Philly to get us over the hump, we let go to Miami. Because what we need in Philly is a dog. We need a dog on the team that's going to dig in your ass when you're not doing what you're supposed to, when you're not giving it your all, when you are not leaving it all out on the court. And I like Joel Embiid. He's not that guy. Joel Embiid is going to show up every night and give you exactly what he's going to give you. And that's great. But he's not going to motivate the masses around him. That's not who he is. That's not his personality. We needed somebody to pair with him. Jimmy Butler was that guy. And we don't have a dog on the team. And Harden is not a dog. He does not have that dog mentality.
I don't disagree with you, and a lot of people. It's funny how they can swing the narrative. I'll make it very clear here on our little thing that we're doing. Jimmy Butler was not. The Sixers did not choose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler got an offer that he felt wasn't worthy. And then they signed Tobias Harris before they worked out the contract with Jimmy. A lot of people don't understand that they gave Jimmy a contract first. He didn't like it, which I'm not disagreeing with him. Then they said, before we lose Tobias Harris too, let's grab him. And then they came back to Jimmy, and Jimmy was, because they actually had enough money to pay Jimmy too. A lot of people don't realize they had enough money to pay both of those guys.
Right.
Because they were going to restructure Ben Simmons' a deal anyway. And then when they came back to Jimmy, Miami had already called. And so it looked like they chose Tobias Harris, where they probably shortchanged him a little bit. They probably, you know what I'm saying? He probably was like, yo, I'm worth more than that. You know, you ain't, because they didn't want to give him the max. And so, and I have to agree that they, you know, in hindsight, probably should have, or maybe they should have went to him first or whatever. To your point about the dog, I think that's why we made the coaching change.
But I don't know that this new coach that we have is a dog either.
I think Nick Nurse is more of a dog than what we may think. And I'm not saying dog like, I mean, and Jimmy Butler's, honest, let's be real. Jimmy Butler's like if there's a top dog level, he, you know, elite dog, he's in the elite category. But I think Nurse is first of all, I think Nurse is respected because of the championship. Because if you really think about it, they won that championship with Kawhi Leonard, Vinny and the Jets. There was Kawhi Leonard and a bunch of good, decent players. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I'm not
say Vinny and the Jets.
But what I'm saying is, it was Kawhi Leonard, a bona fide superstar in his prime,
right?
And a bunch of decent players that he elevated. And then they got the luck of the draw on a couple of injuries with the Warriors, and they won a title. But I think Nick Nurse coached his butt off throughout that whole process, and I think he's done a good job so far. Let's see what happens in the next, when he gets these pieces and everything. But I just felt like I think, to your point, we've seen this before. I think that also applied to Doc a little bit, right? Because, I mean, yeah, Doc's got that one title.
But he got that one title with Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Kevin Garnett was the dog.
Yeah. Well, shoot.
Kevin Garnett was the dog on that team.
They had 3 dogs on that team.
Right, and then Paul Pierce. But Kevin Garnett was the dog. But Kevin Garnett was the dog that was going to dig in everybody's ass.
He was the elite dog. He's the leader of the pack. Yeah,
like he was the dog that was going to, if you won't giving him 120%, he was going to holler at you about that. What I have noticed about Joel Embiid, other than the fact, like I said, he's going to show up and give you what he's going to give you. But Joel Embiid is also a super emotional player. And if he sees that you aren't giving everything, he stops. Because he used to do that with Ben Simmons.
Somebody actually made that point today. That said that his body language changes.
His body language absolutely changes Because as much as the last season that Ben Simmons was there and he played that year in the playoffs and everybody got on Ben Simmons, I was calling out Joel Embiid as well, because I was like, Joel Embiid quit along with Ben Simmons. When he saw that Ben Simmons was not going to take any shots and wasn't going to do anything in the fourth quarter, Joel Embiid admitted defeat right after halftime, and you could see it in his body language.
Yeah. What I would say about this is, when you said a dog, there's a couple potential. I'm not saying Nick Nurse is a dog. I just think I will say that Nick Nurse, I think, will hold more players accountable on the court and off the court. I think you would see that visually, and I think his X's and O's are better because the style that we're playing. I'm not saying that Doc doesn't know how to coach. We know Doc can coach in aspect.
Right. Doc can definitely coach. I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I'm saying he wasn't the right fit for us.
Right. But, and what I'm saying is so far, what I'm looking at, Nick Nurse is taking these pieces and he's playing at a pace that fits the guys that we have. And now that we've made this trade, I hear people bashing these guys coming in, talking about, Nick Batum and all this. You want to talk about a dog? We might have lost PJ Tucker, which a lot of people keep forgetting that PJ Tucker and Harden are actually, kind of close, and they played together in Houston and all that. So if there was ever a player that he was going to want to come with him, it was going to be PJ Tucker. But Marcus Morris, I like the addition of Marcus Morris. You know what I'm saying? I like that because Marcus Morris could fit a little bit of that dog. He's not an elite dog, but he has one of those mentalities where he's going to push you. He's going to push some people around. He gets in people's face. I think Marcus Morris, and the thing I like about Marcus Morris is he's a legit guy that you could probably depend 12, get you 12 points, guard a couple people here and there, and he's not going to complain if you don't get the ball. Covington, he's already played in Philly. We know Covington. We know what he brings to the table. He's going to hit you a couple of threes here and there. He's going to defend a couple of guys. He's not going to complain if he don't get the ball. Nick Batum, long guy. Hey, we got a guy that can guard Porzingis now. We got a guy that can, maybe guard a little bit of Kevin Garnett. I mean, Kevin Durant. I'm just saying that I like the pieces because they're guys that will just come in. They're kind of like called the 3D guys. They're guys that are going to play defense, hit a couple of threes, but they're not going to complain if they don't get the ball. So what does that do now? That gives the complete green light for Maxey and Embiid to just do what they got to do to put points on. And there's nobody looking over their shoulders. I like Oubre off the bench. And we ain't gonna look. My point is, we can't do no worse than what we've been doing, losing in the second round. So let's see what happens.
Well, we could.
But I think we'll be fine. But here's the point of all of it: if it don't work out, all those dudes have expiring contracts, and it opens up salary cap options to go get other people next year, and we got draft assets that we can use at the trade deadline. So the bottom line is
that's fair. I'll take that.
Well, and that's what you want. I mean, Harden. That's why I said when I said 20 cents on the dollar to trade Harden, I think we got about 75% on the dollar on that, which I'm fine with.
They were laughing at me today at work because I was talking about it, and they were like, "Lonice, do you like the trade?" I said, "I don't even care." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "We could have traded that man for $1 and a dream, and it would have been better than him being on the team."
Addition by subtraction, right?
Right. I was like, I don't even care. I was like, him not being there improves the team because the man is a cancer. Get him out of here. Yeah. I didn't want him to begin with, so get him out of here. I didn't care what we got for him. $1. I was fine with $1 and a dream. We got draft. I was like, and really looking at it, I feel like we might have fleeced Houston because we got 4 draft picks and 3 players.
Well, the reason why people look at this, I mean, from LA,
not Houston. I'm sorry, the Clippers. We might have fleeced the Clippers.
Now, just to defend the Clippers just a little bit, because just kind of knowing and reading about it a little bit, and I know you know this part of the game, part of the business as well. But because of those inspiring contracts, they knew they weren't bringing those guys back. What they're taking a chance on is this, because it was funny because I thought about this too. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. I'm gonna say Westbrook, but the point I'm gonna make is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they're going to miss some games. they made that trade because when you look at Marcus Morris and Batum and these guys, neither one of those guys they felt would give them a chance to have another guy that can put up 20, 25, 30 when
while they're waiting on those guys to come back.
So give me a James Harden that wants to come play at home from LA, wants to play with Paul George, wants to play. Him and Westbrook have worked out their differences.
Have they?
Well, from
have they?
From a basketball sense, they said that they could play with each other and they were okay with that. I'm wait to see it because it's like with Harden, you got to wait to see everything with him.
Got to wait to see everything, and you have to wait to see everything with Westbrook because Westbrook moving from the Lakers to the Clippers. I mean, he just changed locker rooms essentially, but he's been a completely different player than what he was with the Lakers. He's much improved.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Free. He's playing free, and I think when he plays
and I don't
free,
know if bringing James Harden in will allow him to continue to do that.
If James Harden plays now this is funny, and like I say, you gotta wait and see. If it's the James Harden that was willing to concede to Embiid, there's no way in hell that he's going to go to that team and think he's going to play and beat a Harden in Houston when you got a Kawhi Leonard, a Paul George, and a Westbrook playing well. I feel good as a Philly fan because the bottom line is, like you said, let's start the season now from this point with no drama. Everybody's got their role. I mean, if you think about it, him leaving everybody has fell into a role just like that. Like automatically, everybody on that team has. Maxey knows I can dominate the ball and I can go get a bucket and nobody's going to say a word to me except Embiid when he wants the ball. That's it. I know that. Tobias Harris, you stay out there and shoot, defend. Everybody else, defend, shoot. That's it. These two guys are the team, and then everybody defend. And that's what you want. You want clear roles so that you can do what.
And I honestly feel like, even though people were like, well, now Embiid doesn't have a superstar with him, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, listen, if everybody does their job, to quote Bill Belichick, if everybody does their job, I think Joel Embiid will be fine because also in addition to them having clear defined roles on the court, now he doesn't have to do all this extra baggage and nonsense off the court because that was the super frustrating thing for Joel Embiid because again, that's not who he is.
Agree. He don't want to mess with all. He don't want to deal with that. You heard what he said. Maybe he's got something going on. I don't know. I'm just playing. Like I'm just listen. Joel Embiid is absolutely. I'm just here so I don't get fined kind of guy when it comes to talking to the media. He don't want to answer all those questions, just like he didn't want to answer no questions about Ben Simmons. He didn't want to answer all those questions about Harden. There's nobody there to be a prima donna, and he can just come to work and play just
ball.
Do what he got to do. And the last point I'll make is there are certain teams that have young players, that have had young players that you didn't know were superstars until they became them.
Right.
Did anybody draft?
Because didn't nobody know Kawhi Leonard was going to be a superstar until he became one.
Kawhi Leonard, Jaylen Brown, hell, Steph Curry. These are guys that get drafted, but nobody was.
They were determined Steph Curry was not because he was too small.
But that's my point. Jaylen Brown. When they drafted Jaylen Brown, okay, you thought Tatum might be a star. They drafted Jaylen Brown right behind him, and he's just, he's a star. Like, when you say the word, people say superstar, you don't know until you know. I started watching so a lot of the basketball players now, they go to these different camps, and they got these different guys. I can't think of the guys' names. It's like 2 or 3 of them. And they go to these camps to try to improve their skills. Right. And and it's almost like they're literally going to summer camp, like they're back, as young adults or teenagers. And I watch not this past summer, but the summer of 22. I watch all of Maxey's workouts, and watching those workouts, I was sitting there saying to you, because I don't know if you remember, during the season, and I was like, dude, this dude Maxey can play, And people say, well, Pete, that was a camp. But the purpose for the camp was to take you to prove your game And these guys that they're paying, these guys are millionaires, I think, now getting paid. I mean, you got they had guys in there like Jimmy Butler was there when Maxey was there, and who else was there? It was a couple of people was there, but a lot of players that you wouldn't think would go to these camps. I'm like, Jimmy Butler's at this camp, you know what I'm saying, playing with Maxey, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, this kid can play. 3 games in, I'm gonna tell you right now, just watching him play, there's a different level of confidence. There's a different level of freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just when people play free, and then they talk about the Bucks game, and I was like, did y'all watch that game? We lost by 1 point. I think we'll be fine. We just gotta get this team and get the players in. Let Nick Nurse.
It's not like we don't have 1,200 games in the season to figure it out.
I saw the trade deadline for the football. Everybody, it's killed me. Everybody try to push the narrative. Devontae, Adams and all. I'm like, everybody know that man, they should send that man somewhere, but they just ain't gonna do it because they're probably gonna do it in the offseason, but that dude is not happy. The Raiders, look, Jimmy G or whatever. I'm gonna say it like this. I knew it was something to Shanahan's offense to make him, probably better than what he is. He is not good. And maybe it's Josh McDaniels, but maybe, like you said, maybe it's the O-line. Maybe it's the red.
It's a combination. Oh my
God, though.
Because Jimmy G wasn't bad in New England. That's why Bill Belichick wanted him to be the heir apparent before he traded him away to Tom Brady. He wasn't bad when he played in New England.
He had him in New England. I mean, is it offensive line, I guess? Because he had him in New England. And he did pretty well under Josh McDaniels. Then what is going on with Josh McDaniels?
Josh McDaniels sucks as a coach, as a head coach. Let's just keep it a bill. This is his, and somebody had pointed out, because I was like, he doesn't need a third chance. And they were like, this is already his third chance. Because remember, he took the job with the Colts and then bailed. And I was like, I forgot about that.
I forgot about that.
The man, here was my post last night after the Raiders game.
He sure did.
Here was my post last night after the Raiders game, and I'm going to say it here for anybody that's listening. If any NFL GM swing through, there's 2 things I need y'all to accept as truths moving forward. 1, Josh McDaniels sucks as a head coach. And when he gets fired from the Raiders, because it's coming, he doesn't need a 4th chance, because as was pointed out, this is his 3rd opportunity right here with Las Vegas. 2, Bill Belichick's coaching tree sucks. Stop hiring those clowns that coach under him to be head coaches. They're not any good if they're not under Bill Belichick. Because clearly he's not teaching them what to do and how to be successful without him being there. They're just doing their job under Bill Belichick. They don't know how to do all of that by themselves. They're trash. Stop hiring them people to be clowns. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Those are the 2 truths I need the NFL GMs to accept. Because Josh McDaniels, he looks so out of his element. He's so confused on the sideline.
When they put the camera on him, it's deer in headlights sometimes with him, and I don't understand.
Right. And I'm just like...
even as an offensive coordinator, you got a lot of experience, man, to understand situational football. Like, that's the one thing.
Situational.
But what I'm saying is that's the one thing, and Tom Brady even said this, that there's a lot of things. Tom Brady admitted to this in some aspect of an interview. He said, we were just better at it, everybody. He was like, we could have lost some of those games. He was like, we were just better at situational football than a lot of other teams are. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm looking at Josh McDaniels like, I get it. You got a head coaching title, but football. Don't you? Like, you were there.
Right. But then I'm almost like, maybe you don't. Like, he's not good at this. And some people, we have, over the years of watching football, we have learned that some people are just better as coordinators than head coaches. Norv Turner might be one of the best offensive coordinators we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Don't give that man a whole team to coach. He's not good at it. He's just not good at it. Yeah. But if you tell me that you hiring Norv Turner as the OC, I'm all in.
Or even a consultant to the offense. Yeah.
Right. Like, chances are that's your guy, and your offense is going to be top tier with Noah Turner having something to do with it. Just don't give him the head coaching job. Like it's just, that's the thing. Some people are better at being coordinators, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But stop giving these people 5 chances to jack up football teams. And yes, I'm and you know what? And I want to feel bad for Devontae Adams, but then I don't, because you made a choice.
Well, he chose to go play with Carr, though, and they got rid of that man.
But when he left to go play, here's the thing, Pete. You're going to have to sell that BS to somebody else. Because, yes, you and Derek Carr were in college together and y'all were good friends. And you said that you wanted to go to a team when you left Green Bay. One, you wanted the money. But also you wanted to go to a team that had an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. And you signed with the Raiders. And just as sure as I'm sitting here today, at the time that he signed with the Raiders, you, me, and him knew that they weren't the team that was going to have the opportunity to win Super Bowl.
I would say that, and I'm not disagreeing, but I will say this to you. He had a pretty good damn season last year, and they made the playoffs. So I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, and I'm not saying that they would have won the Super Bowl. And they ain't no far. They're probably 10 years behind now, based on the actions that they've done. All I'm saying is he made a choice to go. I'm not going to get on him for the choice he made at that time, because we've seen players go to teams. Hell, Randy Moss went to the Raiders. You know, like, there's a lot of people that have gone to teams thinking that they could become something, and then when they get there realizing, yeah, I made a mistake. But this is a little bit more worse than I thought it was going to be for him too now, Lonice. I mean, let's be real. Like, we didn't think the Raiders were going to be this bad. Like, that's a huge drop.
I feel bad that his talent is being wasted.
That's what I'm saying.
Because his talent is definitely being wasted. But, and I also feel like he should have made, because now people are like, he should just go in the office and he should have demanded to have been traded before the deadline. And I'm like, well, now we in the thick of the season at this point. That was the off season to do that. He should have, when he was talking about Derek Carr not being there and stuff, that's when he should have been like, hey guys, listen, I feel like this ain't gonna work out, and this isn't what I signed up for. So let's see where you can get me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that move. I guess I just to bring it full circle, I guess my point is this. He's got, like you say, here's the bed, you gotta lie in it.
Right.
But I'm not gonna sit there and look at him and say that situation is probably far worse than anybody could have imagined. Like, I would not have ever imagined that, because for some reason, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just crazy, I thought that they were headed in the right direction. I'm not sitting here telling you they was going to win a championship or anything like that, but I thought they was going to be.
They were headed in the right direction until Josh McDaniels started getting rid of players that were good.
That's my point. That's what I'm getting to. That's what I'm saying. And as a person like Devontae Adams, to your point, maybe he should have thought about that in the offseason, but maybe he was trying to be the good Samaritan too and saying, all right, let's just ride and see what happens.
They also had a bona fide, because even though Derek Carr, he ain't going to nobody's Hall of Fame, but he was a decided voice.
Yeah, he was a leader.
And leader in that locker room that people were willing to follow. And
I don't think they definitely don't have that.
And I could be wrong, but I feel like because Josh McDaniels came from under the coaching tree of Bill Belichick, I feel like one of the reasons that he wanted to get rid of Derek Carr, because it's not as if Derek Carr was playing poorly when they sent that man home last year and just told him to stay away from the team. Who does that? I just feel like he didn't want him being the voice and the leader in the locker room, even though he was. When the mess went down with John Gruden, when your man was driving 500 miles an hour like he was in the Fast and Furious.
That one receiver.
Yeah, and killed the lady, the dog, and all the things out there. Like, Derek Carr was the face of the organization, stood fast, and everything that he said was exactly as it should have been. And those dudes respected him and followed him when whatever it was the media asked him, whenever he had anything to say, be it about those situations or how they were performing on the field or what was going on. The locker room followed him. They listened to him. He was the voice. And I feel like Josh McDaniels did not like that.
Yeah.
Because it's clear in the Patriots, if you do things the Patriots way, Bill Belichick is the voice in the locker room.
Right.
And I feel like Josh McDaniels wants it that way. But, sir, you're not Bill Belichick.
Yeah, you got to have a certain level of cachet and actually have some level of success doing it that way to get people to continue to follow it that way. I know out there in Washington, they've definitely started the fire sale in that. You saw both the linemen get traded. So we kind of felt this was coming at one point.
So now I got to see Chase Young for a third time.
That is kind of funny.
I was like, when I saw that trade today, I was like, son of a bitch. And everybody was like, Lonice, but now you don't have to see him twice a year. I've already seen him twice a year, and I haven't played the 49ers yet. And listen, and even though people have tried to make me feel better because this past week, Jordan, I think he only got one pressure off of Jordan Mailata. He didn't get any sacks this time and all those things and whatnot. And I was like, well, fantastic. Jordan Mailata, I don't know if I didn't see the whole game, so I don't know if we rolled some help to Jordan or if Jordan just, watched some film and figured something out. But that first game, Chase Young gave him the business.
I mean, and that's what you expect.
Gave him the business. I was like, Jalen was running for his life. Now you're telling me we got to see this man again in a few weeks. And Nick Bosa's on the other side. And you're telling me that potentially we could see them again in the playoffs, so we're going to get them 4 times. I didn't want that headache.
Well,
nope, didn't want it.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, you might not see them if they don't get this off.
They don't write that shit.
Well, and again, Purdy's not playing great, but, it's obvious, too. I guess, just thinking about Debo, but, Trenton Williams, I'm like, I mean, it's just different when you got to replace an all-pro tackle, man. I mean, I'm not making any excuses, but again.
Yeah, now, people keep talking about Debo. I feel like Trent Williams is probably a bigger impact.
Trent Williams is a much bigger issue because you can find guys that can play. If you can't protect.
Because Debo's out, but you still got Brandon Ayuk, you got George Kittle, and you still got Christian McCaffrey. I think y'all are fine.
Yeah, and some of those other guys are pretty good, and you still got Kittle. I'm saying is you can't. I can find a certain skill guy and put him in places in the offense, right? If you think a decent coach will find a guy. I mean, they're making slot guys and guys that are 5'9" and 5'10", 5'7", putting them in positions to give you problems, sprint right, sprint left, handoffs, screen passes, right? But none of that works if you got a guy that's a damn turnstile. If you lose a guy, I can point to the Dolphins. We lost 2 of our top guys on the offense. And last week we kind of righted the ship a little bit, but I think Mike McDaniels called a different game. I think he called a different game, but you saw actually Tua struggled earlier in the game, and then he found his ground. He found his, he struggled a little bit in the game early on, but it was the Patriots too. Again, like I told you, the Patriots play us tough. That's what they do.
Right.
But
because this is a division rival. Like just like people were like, I can't believe y'all were struggling against the Commanders. It's a division rival.
Yeah.
If they don't do nothing else, they trying to beat us.
Right.
They trying to beat us in Dallas. They don't do nothing else.
But I know San Francisco just hasn't looked the same since Trent Williams went down. I know Debo, but they just, and I think teams are what they're doing now is they're challenging Purdy's arm strength, because what they're doing now is teams are saying on certain downs, I'm going to concede the run if you run it, because if you try to throw it, I'm dropping my linebackers all the way back, and those windows are this tight now. So if you really want to make that throw, it can't be about anticipation, because if you got a linebacker as they're dropping back and they're looking at the quarterback, they're going to get a beat on the ball. They're going to jump on the ball soon as. So if you throw a ball, if he's throwing a ball where he's anticipating a cut, in between the linebackers and the safety, and the linebacker is dropping back, he sees the ball coming. And I think that's been one of the adjustments to kind of say, okay, Purdy, we know you can do this, so we're going to take that away now. Can you actually be patient enough to check it down, or can you throw it in that tight window with the arm strength you have? And so far, he hasn't been able to do it. So I'm curious now to see, with Williams out, and now that teams are backing up and actually saying, I'm not going to let Purdy throw those second layer throws, because I don't think he's got the skill set to throw those. I don't think he has the ability to throw it. And so far, he hasn't shown it. I'm curious to see what teams now do, if they just turn around and run the ball a little bit more or whatever. But I think the real big question is like you said, getting Chase Young, I think, wasn't a fluke. They had not been playing decent defense the last couple of weeks. They have not.
Their defense hadn't been great either.
Nah, they hadn't been playing well at all. And I think the offense is used to a couple of short fields, just like the Pittsburgh Steelers and like other teams. You get a couple of short fields and it helps you out. So,
well, I was going to say, but the 49ers, if you look at their team, they're built a lot like the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Their defense is built to play with the lead. They're not built to come from behind. Mm-hmm. Which is fine. However,
their secondary is not as good as it probably needs to be. When you say play from behind, it's more about saying you don't have a lot of weaknesses in each layer of your defense. And it's this year, for some reason, their secondary doesn't seem like it's as good, because if they can't get to the quarterback, teams are throwing all over the yard against them. I mean, it's
I don't know if offensive lines are scheming them different to slow down the pass rush, but they're not, because like today when I saw the trade, when I sent the link to my crew and our group text, that I go watch the Eagles with, I was like, Steve Wilkes chose violence today. I was like, he got Chase Young and he has chosen violence, because I guess he was like, I'm sick of not being able to get this pass rush where I need it to be, and get these people where I need it to go. So here we are now. I got this other piece that I can play with and kind of try to move people around and whatnot. But I mean, like I said, like they're really built to play with the lead, and because I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers, because he was trying to tell me, he was like, well, the Eagles have the same defense, and I was like, we do not. No. We have come from behind on more than one occasion this season.
But when I look at the Eagles, when I look at other teams, they don't have glaring weaknesses like that, where you can depend. If your line doesn't get there, you still got corners that can cover. You still got linebackers that can hit. You know what I'm saying? That can cover. But, like, you got guys.
If it was going to be a glaring weakness, it would be secondary.
I think your secondary is fine. Everybody struggles when they get to the nickel and the fourth option. I mean, there's not a lot of teams that got 3 solid corners. Y'all got 2. We got 2 now. Like, a lot of teams don't even have that. Like, there's a lot of teams that don't have 2 solid corners. So I think that gives you a shot. That gives you a shot.
And also, like, eventually, I'm always 100% positive in the fourth quarter, Hassan Reddick is coming to close out the game.
Yeah, you got
like at a certain point, you can hold him for 3 quarters. You're not gonna get him for 4. Like, he's showing up at some point to close out the game, to try to go ahead and shut this down and be like, let's get out of here with this win. So I always feel good about that.
What's the key to stopping Dallas then? Because that's the game next week. What's the key to stopping Dallas?
Getting to Dak.
Is it getting to Dak as in just peer pressure?
Like actually getting to him and touching him.
Okay.
like actually getting, because I even though people are like, we all clown Dak. We all clown Dak. Everybody does. And everybody in the division. Everybody clowns Dak. And it's just, he's an easy target. But Dak is not terrible. He's not a bad quarterback at all. If you let Dak beat
you, he's going to beat you. That's
right.
And that's the thing. He's going to beat
you. If you don't constantly keep pressure on him, and even if you don't get there, because even before Mike McCarthy took over the offense, one of Dak's strengths was getting the ball out quick. He'll get the ball out. Like, you can send the pass rush, but if you don't actually get to him, he can get the ball out pretty quickly to his receivers. So the key to me always is getting to Dak Prescott. If we can get to Dak Prescott, which I feel like is going to be easier this year because Tony Pollard is not a good blocker as Ezekiel Elliott is. I feel like it might be a little bit easier for us to get to that. We'll have to see what kind of changes and adjustments that they've made.
I'm going to tell you one that they've made that you guys are going to have to watch out for. If you watch any of that game or any highlights of that game with, who was that? The Rams this past weekend. Yeah. They're moving CeeDee Lamb around now. And they're moving him around.
And they've actually remembered that Brandon Cooks is on the team for the second week in a row.
And part of moving him around is exactly what you talked about. Moving him around to put him, because like when, they were saying like you put him in the slot. If you put him in a slot, he does have options, right? Because most receivers in the slot have that, if a team is leveraging on the inside, you go out. If a team is leveraging outside, you go in. Right. But the only thing about that is that defenses that have very intelligent players or good schemes, it's a natural double team because you might have a double team with a linebacker on this side or a safety on that side in that slot position. So unless you're running shallow routes in that slot, which by all means probably not going to get you, it's basically like a check down. What's the point of putting CeeDee Lamb in the slot, right? Why are you going to check it down to him in the slot for 3 yards? So what they started to do was they started to put him on the X or they'll put him on the Y, and they keep moving him back and forth on different possessions. And what that's done is it's made teams have to continue to try to find him because you don't want him to get one-on-one. Now, the advantage you guys have, and and I would say us now and other teams is that you do have corners that for a play here, play there, you're going to be able to handle him one-on-one. But they're trying to get CeeDee Lamb in spots where he's getting in space, not just in the slot. And that helps Dak gets the ball out quick because I watched a little bit of the game and that was get it out quick. But when he was getting out quick, it was slant route, skinny post, slant route, skinny post. Right. It was a lot of stuff where he had all this space on the side.
But what concerns me with that is that my new defensive coordinator absolutely loves zone coverage. And if you are running zone and teams run the slant, they will dink and dunk you all day.
Yeah, they're gonna get if you back up, if you play the traditional cover 2 or cover 3 zone and you leave the flat where these D-backs are letting the receivers go, they're gonna run right behind that and run those little shallow ends and things like that and sit down. But I think to your point, if that happens, then yeah, your front four's got to get to Dak. You know what I'm saying? It's got to get there because it makes your back seven has an easier perspective or easier way to play because they can anticipate when the ball's coming because they're pressuring Dak to get it out. If he's back there and he can sit and plant that foot and deliver it when he wants to, then and it's like you say, and they're looking at Brandon Cooks. So I can agree with that. I think the key to the game, you got to
Dak. But I feel like it's going to be a tough matchup because again, it's Dallas, it's a division rival. And I am certain they are chomping at the bit for this game, just like we are. And which is funny though, because Micah Parsons has asked for the Dallas fans to come out to Philly and take over the link. And I was like, dog,
that's not gonna happen.
That's never gonna happen. But way to try to rally the troops. Okay.
That's not gonna happen.
That's not a thing. He was like, let's turn it into a home game, Dallas.
There's certain cities that people will be gracious and open to giving up their tickets. Philadelphia is not one of those cities.
Philly is not one. And definitely not for Dallas.
No, that ain't happening. The one thing
I was like, sir, what have you been smoking?
Well, you said he was. Yeah. Anyway. But the one thing I will say before I move on for that is that you guys don't mess around with Dallas. Don't get off to them slow starts like y'all have done. Because if y'all get off to those slow starts and they just happen to catch one or two, I mean, I'm not saying you guys can't come back. I'm just saying it'll make your life as a fan a little bit less stressful to see you actually stay in the game or be ahead in the early part of the game. I mean, I'm sure watching part of that Commanders game, you were a little bit stressed out just a tad until the ball started landing in AJ Brown's hands. Y'all will be okay though. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't look at this Chiefs team lightly going over to Germany because they had a dud game. Mahomes with talking about flu-like symptoms and all that stuff. I mean, you play the game, they lost, but I'm not looking at that game by any means. Denver won. Hey, woohoo!
What was the first time in 8 years?
Yeah.
Well,
people, just for the record, Mahomes hasn't played all 8 years there. There was a guy named Alex Smith that was whipping their butt too.
Okay. I'm aware.
No, I'm just saying a lot of people think Mahomes has been playing for 15 years or something like that. I'm like, dude, the Chiefs were good before Mahomes got there. They just didn't win the championship. They were still good though. Anyway, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I will say this though about the Chiefs. Their offense has looked questionable most of the season.
They can't catch the ball.
Right. So absolutely don't overlook them going to Germany because one, they're going to be trying to bounce back. But I definitely feel like everybody's like 100% positive they're going back to the Super Bowl again. And I'm just not. Like, when people are talking about them, they're like, but they got Patrick Mahomes. I said, but who else does Patrick Mahomes have other than Jason Kelce?
I don't think they're the Super Bowl favorites by any means. I guess maybe at the beginning of the season you might have thought that because you might have assumed that these young players were going to step up after they let some other guys go.
Right. But now with 7 weeks of film, 8 weeks of film behind you, I'm just like, I feel like the Chiefs can be had. If you play your A game.
It's at least 4 teams in the AFC that can beat the Chiefs on any given day. The Bengals,
right.
Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Jaguars. Those 4 teams can beat the Chiefs. I mean, I'm just calling it, and I think the Chiefs I think they know that probably now. I think they probably thinking that because if they go into this, I'm gonna say it, we're not. People can. Oh, we
Which
have.
Which is why I didn't understand why they didn't make any moves for a wide receiver before the trade deadline.
That's a good one. That's a good question.
Because I've been on the phone trying to get D-Hop. I'd have been trying to get Devontae out of Las Vegas.
Well, see,
I'm calling everybody.
Well, see, I think 2 things, and as much as people want to say it is not a factor anymore, I think it is. I think it's definitely still a factor. I think there's a traditional sense with certain owners because we change coaches, the mindset of the owners don't normally change. They're not going to want to trade a star regardless if they need him or not within the division. I still feel that way. And I felt like with the 2 receivers that everybody was talking about being open outside of D-Hop was Judy and Adams. Obviously, the Chiefs needed probably need a receiver. Right. Judy could probably fit. But I just felt like those teams weren't going to trade to the Chiefs. I felt like those teams would rather see the Chiefs be vulnerable and hey, we ain't good, so you know what? We're going to let y'all suffer. Maybe we'll do this in the offseason, but we're not going to help you win this season. Like, that's how I think they might have.
And don't get me wrong, cool. I get that.
And I hope that's what they did.
But I would have at least have made the call, and the reports are that the Chiefs didn't even make the call.
As far as a move, and I think the D-Hop move, I'm going to be honest with you. I think that game that D-Hop just had wound up keeping him in Tennessee. Because I think...
Well, I feel like if Tennessee had lost the game, I feel like they would have moved D-Hop and Derrick Henry.
If they had lost the game and looked the same, yes. But by them, even if they would have lost the game and he threw 3 touchdown passes to D-Hop, I think that would have kept him there. Because I think they would have looked at it and said, okay, for the rest of this year, we're going to develop this quarterback, and he knows he's got a stud, and he's still got, he's got 2 studs that he can lean on. You move both of those guys, and then you turn to Will Evans and say, okay, carry us. Really? I mean,
right. What am I supposed to do now? Carry you with what?
So now I got Pete Dukes on as a receiver and Pete Dukes in the backfield. What is Pete Dukes gonna do? He ain't gonna do nothing.
Right.
He can't do nothing with that.
I don't even know who that man is.
Right. So I think actually them having a decent game with the way they won by them chucking it, and because that's what Will Levis came into the league. He's got a big arm, he's got a very accurate ball, and he has a big presence in the pocket, and he's athletic. So he's basically a bulked up Ryan Tannehill, honestly, because Tannehill actually has a pretty decent arm. But the bottom line is he's got all the intangibles you need to groom him into being a franchise quarterback. But you want
I'll accept that.
I would not have been against D-Hop moving. Trust me, because I like D-Hop, and I do want to see him play on a contender. I mean, he put his work in for years with the Texans. Put his work in. That man, he was just like, if there was ever a person that followed a shadow of another superstar that knew they just weren't going to win a championship, think about Andre Johnson and then D-Hop. Like, you know what I'm saying? Andre Johnson played all those years as a Texan, and we knew the whole time he ain't winning no championship. Not out there. But he putting up numbers.
And then he went. And then I felt like once D-Hop left, I was hopeful. And then he ended up in Arizona, and I was like, well, this ain't getting no better.
It could have worked out, but the coaching and Kyler Murray just ain't. That's just not that to me. That's not championship quality coach and quarterback. But bottom line is, if D-Hop would have moved, I would have been happy for him. But I think the fact that he didn't move, I think they're going to try to see what this young quarterback can do. And here's the funny part. It's not like Tennessee is out of the playoff hunt, right? No. I mean, the NFC, the Jaguars are starting to separate themselves a little bit. But if you really look at the wild cards, I mean, it's only 7 games into the season, 7, 8. The wild cards are within 3 wins of each other. So what if this young quarterback get hot and actually they start beating on the teams that they're supposed to win, and then you look up and they got 8 or 9 wins? Yeah, I'm just trying to. I think I'm about to get off here. I'm just glad you got on, talk a little bit, man. Like you said, I think the moral of this whole story is on this great Halloween. I'll get my mask here. On this Halloween night is that James Harden is no longer a Sixer, and I think we can celebrate, praise whatever high power you have for James Harden being gone.
So whatever God you pray to.
Whatever God you pray to. All right, shout out to Marshmello.
Shout out to all my Aggies.
Yeah, G-Ho this weekend.
Happy homecoming. Happy G-Ho.
All right, man. I'm going to get off here.
All right. Holla.
All right. Talk to you later.
See you this weekend.
Mm-hmm.